Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Whenever you may be listening, welcome to the Newsmax Daily for Wednesday, January the 8th, 2025, the second Wednesday of the new year, and it's National Take the Stairs Day, which has only been a thing since 2016. With each new year, there are a lot of people refocusing on getting healthy, right? And adding the stairs instead of the elevator to your daily routine can certainly help. That was the premise behind National Take the Stairs Day. So unless you work, like on the 20th floor or something, try taking the stairs. Tens of millions of Americans and airports from the Midwest to the East Coast are still dealing with snow, ice, and freezing temperatures, which is now headed to Oklahoma and Texas. Out west, L.A. is dealing with a fast-moving wildfire propelled by very high winds.
The wind is so strong it'll almost knock you over, and the embers are blowing through the parking lot, and the ashes will hit you in the eyes.
Everybody left already, so I'm just here, but just, trying to be calm.
So I'm just ready to leave whenever, if I wake up in the middle of the night and something has jumped over towards my side, I'm just ready to get in the car and leave.
Thousands of acres and multiple homes have been destroyed already. This just kind of popped up out of nowhere. In a tweet, California Governor Gavin Newsom wrote California has deployed more than 1,400 firefighting personnel and hundreds of preposition assets to combat these unprecedented fires in L.A. President-elect Trump also took to X to talk about the fires and call out Governor Newsom's lack of preparation and progress on combating wildfires, saying, quote, "Every year as the fires rage and California burns, it is the same thing." And then he comes to the federal government for money. No more. Get your act together, Governor. You don't have close to the level of burn in other states. That was only the beginning of Trump's comments on X about Gavin Newsom. 12 days ahead of being sworn into office again, President-elect Trump is in Washington, D.C. today, meeting with members of Congress. This after holding a news conference at Mar-a-Lago yesterday that the entire world, literally the entire world, is talking about today, beginning with Canada.
We don't need their cars. They make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more? I called him Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. Why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve.
Canada would dissolve without the U.S., straight from Justin Trudeau. As you know, Prime Minister Trudeau has announced his resignation. Rob Schmitt has more highlights of Trump's news conference.
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The president-elect holding an hour-long news conference at Mar-a-Lago earlier today. It became an in-depth look ahead at what is coming for this country in just 13 days. The style and substance of what we heard today was really incredible to see. It was a ride into Trump's mind and how he sees the United States and the rest of the world together. Greenland, Panama, Canada, Russia, NATO, Israel, all discussed today. American foreign policy, the worst maybe we've ever seen these past 4 years, is about to be flipped upside down in just 2 weeks. Trump saying today he hopes to have the war in Ukraine ended within 6 months of entering the White House. While assessing the situation in a way that's sure to freak out the war hawks, Trump today claiming to understand Putin's frustration with NATO aggression that led to the war. Take a listen.
A big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that that's been written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war.
Talk about the subject that you're usually not allowed to say stuff like that when it comes to Russia. speaking like that in Washington. They don't like it very much, and the headlines have already started flying. Reuters saying that Trump sympathizes with Russia. It'll be a hot talking point going forward as Trump works to end another seemingly endless American conflict. Pundits and experts from left-wing think tanks are going to call Trump Putin's stooge, as they always do, pouncing on selective sound bites like that one, while ignoring Trump's rather blatant strategies to contain the power of Russia and other adversaries around the world. Today, Trump was asked about Greenland and his interest in acquiring the lightly populated landmass to our northeast. Greenland is currently a territory of Denmark, though the residents there don't want to be. Most did not report today, though, that Trump's explanation for his interest in controlling Greenland largely has to do with minimizing Russia. Take a listen.
People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
We're not letting that happen. Controlling Greenland means controlling the North Atlantic and keeping Russia in check. That is one 10 or 15 second soundbite that debunks years of speculation about Russia collusion, along with most of what you're going to hear on MSNBC tonight. Today, Don Jr. actually visited Greenland and its 50,000 residents. He managed to land Trump's jet during the 5 hours of sunlight that they had today. It's pretty dark up there this time of the year. And he found a lot of support in a very strange new place that most people have never been to. He's going to be on Finnerty next hour to talk more about what he found. But also today, the Panama Canal was discussed in this wide-ranging news conference at Mar-a-Lago. Trump refusing to rule out possible military force to commandeer this canal that we built out of the hands of China, which now controls ports at both ends of the canal.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it.
Now, Panama's new president just came in this summer, is actually conservative and has been working to shut down the Darien Gap and cut off the migrant caravans that have been coming to our country. So a deal potentially to shove China out of Panama and the control that it's gaining on the canal could potentially be easily within reach. Maybe the most interesting thing and part about watching this man in power and come into power is realizing all the things that the rest of the leaders of this country have been ignoring while they sit in Washington and mainly focus on power and getting reelected. You never thought about the Panama Canal or Greenland. Do you ever think about these things? You never knew most of the world sells us endless supplies of their own goods while refusing to buy the goods that we proudly make in America. You just never thought about it because nobody ever mentioned it because nobody in Washington really ever cared.
Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Check it out tonight and see why it's become one of the highest rated cable news shows of the night. Rob also mentioned Donald Trump Jr. was in Greenland yesterday and would be on Finnerty. First, let's get some commentary from Finnerty, and then we'll get to that interview.
Donald Trump is going into his final term in the White House right now with every intention of leaving as one of the greatest presidents in history. And when you compare that to what we've had over the last 4 years, it is a huge shift in mood, not just here in America, worldwide. Donald Trump wants to be on Mount Rushmore someday, and I mean that seriously. Right up there next to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. That's not hyperbole, that's his goal. And if you look at the rock formation, just to the right of Abraham Lincoln, you can already kind of see the famous Trump hair. And look, I know people are going to laugh at that. For a lot of people, Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore is just too absurd to take seriously, but look at the last 8 years. And to anyone who still doubts Donald Trump at this point, left, right, or center, doubt him at your own peril. He is the best political operator of our time, and we are all seeing him operate in real time. And I'll give you just one example, as if you needed one. After the 2020 election, after Donald Trump was banned from Twitter, the media laughed when he started his own social media platform. Everyone thought that Truth Social was a joke. Fast forward to today, and Trump is literally toppling governments with a single post on that very same platform that everyone laughed at. Justin Trudeau does not resign as Prime Minister of Canada yesterday if Trump doesn't post that Canada should become the 51st state. And that was just the start. And I'll just say that I would much rather have someone heading into the White House who wants to do what's best for America versus what we just went through with Joe Biden. A man more focused on skin color and sexual orientation and gender. A man more focused on them instead of you. Ukraine first, not America first. A man that hates you and his own skin color so much that he opened the border and let 12 million people from all over the world who don't speak English, many don't even speak Spanish, and who ethnically have absolutely nothing in common with you. That thankfully ends in 13 days. Donald Trump posting on Truth Social yesterday that I am, quote, hearing that the people of Greenland are MAGA. Greenland is an incredible place, and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes a part of our nation. We will protect it and cherish it, make Greenland great again. And he mentioned Greenland again today.
That's Rob Finnerty, host of Finnerty, and you heard what Trump said about Greenland. You heard his comments in the first piece with Rob Schmitt. Now, on to the Donald Trump interview on Newsmax.
Okay, so could you imagine a world, your dad is president, where Greenland is, maybe a U.S. territory in the not-so-distant future, like Puerto Rico, for example?
I'd love to see that. My father understands how to wield America's economic might. He understands how to wield America's military might. He knows how to do these things. He's not a guy like Joe Biden, who's a career bureaucrat, never done anything in his life. My father, first and foremost, is a real estate guy, but he understands how to utilize these things for the benefit of both nations. You're going to see the same thing, whether it's Panama, whether it's Canada and those relationships. He understands how to do that. He also understands who the real threats to democracy in this world are. China and so many other dictatorial regimes. He knows how to play that game better than anyone. And it's time that America actually starts doing this. We write checks to other nations that hate our guts, hate our values, hate our freedom, hate everything about us, and we're writing them checks for billions of dollars, and it inures to nothing for America, for the American taxpayer. This is something and a deal that could be done, that my father, I'm sure, could negotiate, that benefits both countries in a great symbiotic relationship that just works. It protects America. It protects them. It protects the world. Because what we've really realized, Rob, in the last 4 years is that a strong America is not just good for America. It's good for the entire free world. We've seen what happens when weak, feckless, and inept leadership, especially what we've experienced over the last 4 years, when that takes hold, dictators, enemies, bad actors, they take advantage of it. That's the nature of predation. That's a story as old as time. Predators prey on the weak. When America is weak, everyone gets preyed on. And that stops on January 20th.
So Greenland, this to me could be Donald Trump's Louisiana Purchase. Same size as the Louisiana Purchase in square miles. 80% ice Greenland, population only 57,000. You were on the ground there. Did the people there that you spoke with and interacted with, did they seem interested in the idea of getting closer to the United States and maybe being liberated from Denmark, who's had control of Greenland for the last 200 years?
100%. I mean, honestly, I didn't see a single negative. I mean, we had crowds waving as we were landing. We went to restaurants, invited locals in. We went to the local bars. We went in there. We went to some of the cultural sites. Literally 100% positive from what I was able to see and experience. And again, these are people that feel they've been exploited. They have not been treated well by Denmark. They're prevented from utilizing the great natural resources that they have, whether that's coal, whether that's uranium, whether that's other rare earth minerals, whether that's gold and diamonds. It's really an incredible place. And these people are saying, we just want a better future for ourselves, and Denmark doesn't allow us to do anything. And beyond that, when we travel to Denmark, we're treated as second and third class citizens. It was really amazing. It was a very eye-opening experience. The reception could not have been warmer, Rob. It was great. I think there's definitely a path for my father and his administration to do something there that benefits both the people of Greenland as well as the people of the United States, both from a trade and commerce standpoint, from a military and strategic location. It actually seems like a total no-brainer.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Rob Finnerty with Don Jr. on last night's Finnerty. Think about this. After World War II, Harry Truman, the 33rd president of the United States, a Democrat, tried to buy Greenland from Denmark for $100 million, but Denmark turned him down. So the whole concept is not as crazy as Morning Schmo and some others in the media are making it sound. This is Trump Transition Team Senior Advisor Jason Miller on Newsmax with Bianca De La Garza.
One of the questions just asked at Mar-a-Lago from the reporters, Jason, was, can you assure us you won't do economic or military to try and take over Greenland or the Panama Canal? So obviously curious legacy media wondering what Donald Trump's plan is. But give us some visibility on what it may look like. He says we need Greenland. He flat out said it. We need Greenland. And he is interested in actually pursuing Panama Canal, saying that, Panama's handed this over to China. And there might be perhaps a treaty that there's something they've violated. That's what he was alluding to.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that I'd point out is that finally we have a president back in the White House, or soon to be in the White House. We have a couple more weeks until we actually get him there, I guess 13 more days if you're scoring at home, who's taking that macro geopolitical viewpoint into both our national security and our national sovereignty, but also with our national economy and also things such as how we're going to protect our borders. And keep in mind, the world's a much different place now than it was even 4 years ago or 8 years ago, going further back. The Arctic Circle, as we take a look at it, this is now a major shipping lane, and it's a place where we see the Russians becoming more aggressive. We see the Chinese becoming more aggressive. And so the world looks a lot different. And for the past 4 years, we've had a leader in the White House with Joe Biden who, to say that he's had his head in the sand would probably be a rather positive way of saying it. We've had just gross incompetence. So what President Trump is doing is saying, OK, let's look at the major security issues that we have. We need to have control of the Panama Canal, and we shouldn't have given it over in the first place. The president's been very consistent on that, talked about that even back during his first term. Greenland is something that we should be controlling. And so there are a number of things that are in play here, both on security. Also keep in mind with regard to Canada, we are going to have some additional negotiations when it comes to the USMCA as the window for those negotiations are popping up to make sure that we're being protected, particularly with the U.S. auto industry. And so President Trump has been ready for this. He's been president before. He knows exactly what he wants to do on day one. And he's starting to put the chess pieces in place so he can look all these different things. And keep in mind,
Jason,
under President Trump, he's really used trade as a soft power to be able to move other countries to benefit American workers and the American economy.
Senior advisor of the Trump Transition Team, Jason Miller, who also spoke about the spending bill that needs to get passed and the Trump tax cuts.
Let's talk about this spending bill. Donald Trump has said the president wants one bill. John Thune and some have suggested to break it into two. And I ask you because, obviously the goal is to get Donald Trump's agenda forward. Would one bill be more advantageous than two, though, just to get it all done and get it to his desk, especially with that razor-thin majority in the House, Jason?
Yeah, and what President Trump has said is that he prefers to have one bill, but there are a number of different ways to do this. There could be two bills, and they're talk about how you want to go and split this up. Do you take on the border first, or you put it all together? But here's the big picture thing of what the president's trying to do, which is re-up the Trump tax cuts, but also make good on these additional tax cut promises he made, such as no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime pay. That will take a little bit of time to develop and put together. So the president said he wants it done. He wants it quick. He wants it on his desk so he can sign it. But ultimately, the House and the Senate will need to come together and figure out how they're going to get this done as quickly as possible.
We know that there has to be some movement, maybe decision in the next week or so before the draft of the bill or bills could be made. So do you think in the next few days we could get clarity on where that is, whether it be one or two, Jason?
Well, potentially. And again, obviously, President Trump is going to have his input here, but also he'll be meeting with folks in Senate leadership, as well as I'm sure he'll see folks in House leadership when he's in Washington tomorrow. But this is something that Congress needs to work through as well, because these things are complex when you go and put it together. And also keep in mind that there's some bigger picture ideas that are going into this, including what the president is going to be implementing with regard to tariffs and additional trade aspects that will go and help our our economy, protect American workers and American industries. But this isn't just a unilateral decision from the president. We have to have both the House and the Senate bought in. So, again, he's made it clear that he wants to have one bill, but he would be open to having two if we can get that done. So I imagine we're going to see movement on this pretty quick. But keep in mind the tax writing component of this does need to start with the House Ways and Means Committee. That's Chairman Jason Smith. And so we got to get moving, because if we don't get that done by the end of the year, obviously there would be a rather negative ramification of that. But we already have the markets that are looking at this. We have the CEO optimism, the small business optimism. We have all this global investment coming into the U.S. based on the promises of lower taxes. And also, Bianca, don't forget about the 10-to-1 commitment to get rid of regulations, getting rid of 10 regulations for every one new regulation that get puts on the books. And so this is what's going to go and turn the economy around and lift everybody up. So we have to get it done. And I have confidence that the president, with a Republican Senate and a Republican House, will be able to get this done.
Again, Trump senior advisor Jason Miller on Newsmax. Yesterday, we talked about the New York State case against Trump and his attorneys not being able to have his sentencing delayed. This morning, Trump asked the Supreme Court to block his sentencing, which is scheduled for Friday. Again, that is the so-called hush money trial. All right. He did get some good news in his federal documents case, as federal judge Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump in his first go-round, ruled to block the Justice Department report by special counsel Jack Smith. Attorney Greta Van Susteren spoke about it with Newsmax senior legal analyst, Professor Alan Dershowitz.
Alan, nice to talk to you, as always. Tell me whether or not the special counsel should be permitted to release the report. That would be through the Attorney General. I'm typically for transparency, but this is such a one-sided document that I have a real hard time thinking that this should be released, because there's no ability to refute it.
It absolutely should not be released. Prosecutors have one job: yes or no, indict or not indict. We know the problems that were caused in the past with Hillary Clinton's candidacy, when the head of the FBI went beyond yes or no and gave an opinion that affected the election. These reports, sure, we need transparency, but these reports shouldn't exist. They should be private documents sent to the Attorney General, but the public shouldn't be watching how the salami is made. That's an inside matter, and we shouldn't be hearing one-sided material, just like grand jury minutes are not revealed because they're one-sided. These absurd one-sided reports should never be revealed to the public. Oh, they should be put in archives and available to historians for 20 years later, but they shouldn't be able to impact the lives of living human beings who can be affected without an opportunity to respond. So I'm hoping that the courts will see through this transparent attempt to try to just smear the incoming president.
Well, this report, because it's put together by an advocate, special counsel Jack Smith, who's now no longer special counsel, but it cherry picks which testimony to highlight, cherry picks what witnesses to put in the report. It cherry picks everything. And he also, at least in D.C., he filed a very extensive pleading that was released by the judge in October. It was about 165 pages. So, to me, it's like, it is so grossly unfair and absurd.
And it's protected from defamation. If it were just him giving a statement, then he could be sued if he lied or if he misrepresented the facts. But because it's in a government document, it's believed to be true. It can be totally false, and it can destroy the reputation of people. Forget about the president. This can happen to anybody if you have reports released about them or grand jury, one-sided grand jury testimony revealed about them without an opportunity to respond. We believe in the adversarial system. This violates the adversary system by its one-sidedness and the imprimatur of the government being placed on it. This is not really a government document. This is one-sided, much like the January 6th Congressional Committee, which wouldn't allow Republicans really to serve on it effectively, and then they released their reports. The public is entitled to transparency, but the transparent results must be fair to everybody.
constitutional law expert and Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. It's a one-sided document, he said, and the rule of law must be fair to everybody. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland, who has already said he would release the document, will have to make the ultimate decision to eventually release it or not. However, he's only going to be the Attorney General for a little bit longer. You will definitely be hearing a lot more about this case in coming days. Also, big news from Washington. The new GOP-controlled Congress passed its first bill yesterday, the Laken Riley Act, a strict border measure named for the 22-year-old Georgia nursing school student murdered last year by an illegal immigrant from Venezuela. The bill passed 264 to 159. All 159 no votes coming from Democrats. This is not something that should at all be partisan whatsoever. 48 Democrats did vote in favor of the bill along with Republicans. It now goes to the Senate for a vote on Friday, which would have been Laken Riley's 23rd birthday. There are plenty of social media postings out there of all the Democrats that voted against it, because I know you want to know who they are, and I'm not going to read off the whole list. This is Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno on Wake Up America this morning.
So we know that the Senate could vote as early as Friday. We know that Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is also on board with this bill. Do you think it gets done? Do you think it passes the Senate?
Well, absolutely, it will pass the United States Senate. Look, as a legal immigrant to this country, because the person you just had on is obviously not somebody who came here legally, was not an immigrant to this country. I am. And it's abhorrent that we have Democrats that would even think about voting against this bill. Look, if we can't agree that criminals, people who committed crimes in this country, have to be deported, then we can't have any reasonable conversations with Democrats. So I suspect, I've met a few freshman Democrats in our orientation. I think there's some good ones there. I think we're going to get much more than 60 votes, because at the end of the day, the Democrats realize that if they continue to be completely unreasonable, completely radical, they will never win another election again. And that's what they care more about than anything else. So look, these are some basic fundamental things. Let's get the Laken Riley bill done. Let's get it with big bipartisan support. Show the American people that all of us are united to get America's agenda completed.
Yeah, to your point, Senator. Senator Fetterman yesterday said that if they can't get 7 Democrat votes for this bill, it's the reason why they lost and they haven't learned their lesson. I mean, we know illegal crossings over the last 4 years, record numbers under the Biden-Harris administration. Now we've got a chance to actually do something. And how quickly is Laken Riley going to be on President Trump's desk on January 20th?
Oh, no, there's no question about it. I think we passed that with big, overwhelming support on Friday. We get it teed up. So the second President Trump is done being sworn in, being inaugurated, a historic day, by the way, the greatest comeback in American history. He'll get to work, get that signed, get executive orders in. Look, the world is optimistic. America's optimistic. This is a red, white, and blue wave that happened on November 5th, not just a Republican win. We're going to make America great again, and all Americans are going to see incredible prosperity, incredible safety everywhere they are. I've never been more optimistic about the future of this country than I am right now.
Ohio Republican Senator Bernie Moreno on Wake Up America with Charlotte McBride and Mark Lotter. Talk about optimistic for the country. In the news conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, President Trump announced another deal that will bring billions of dollars in new foreign business to the United States from a company called DMAC Data Centers.
The first phase of the project will be in Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, those places. And Hussein, I'd love you to come up and say a few words. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been amazing news for me and my family when he was elected in November. We've been waiting 4 years to increase our investments in U.S. to a very large amount of money. We are a company operating in more than 20 countries around the world. We have delivered more than 45,000 luxury units and another 45,000 in the pipeline. In data center, we are in 10 countries around the world, in Asia, Europe, and Middle East. And we're very, very excited now with his leadership and his open strategy and policy to encourage businesses to come to U.S. For the last 4 years, we've been waiting for this moment. And we're planning to invest $20 billion and even more than that if the opportunity in the market allow us. But at the moment, we're planning $20 billion in data center, catering for the AI and cloud business for the hyperscalers.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr.
Great
President.
honor. Thank you very much. So nice.
He said the company waited 4 years to make the deal and is only making the deal because of Trump. $20 billion. His comments were very similar to those of the SoftBank CEO a couple of weeks ago. You remember that? President Biden and the First Lady are making their way back to the White House today from California. On Wall Street, the stock markets opened flat to somewhat negative today, this after closing in the red yesterday. You remember I said it was the second day in a row that we had a big start. And not only did we have a pullback, but we pulled back into negative territory. And have you seen this? Amazon corporate workers are being forced to return to work this week, back to the office. And although many seem to be going with the flow, because they want to keep their job, many others are expressing their disappointment and the issues of actually going back to work, like, having to get dressed, having to have your clothes cleaned, having to buy food, gas, whatever it is, like most everybody else. It's all over social media. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day on Newsmax, N2, and Newsmax.com. Don't forget, it begins each and every day with Wake Up America, followed by all of your favorite shows and hosts with expert analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, Senator Rick Santorum, political analyst Mark Halpern, legal analyst Alan Dershowitz, Judge Napolitano, Rick Grinnell, and many others. I'm Tony Moreno. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Continue to share it with your friends and family. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Safe travels. Good luck traveling with all the severe weather. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Relentlessly slowing the spread of the stupid every day. It's the Rob Carson Show.
Hey, it's Rob Carson. My podcast is about leading-edge commentary and opinion, great guests, and the biggest political comedy in the country. My satire was featured on the Rush Limbaugh program for over a decade, and now it's fresh and new and on my podcast. It's not just another desk-pounding conservative tirade. It's about entertaining, informing, and motivating. Patriotism and hope. You don't need more stress in your life. You need to feel good and, dare I say, even laugh. Subscribe and download at your favorite podcast platform or go to Newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.